Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into the 10th and final Autumn 2023 update from GavsWeatherVids. So here we go, it's time to bring you our final Autumn update. We've been doing Autumn updates every week for the past 3 months, or nearly every week past 3 months. We have come to the end now. We've come to the end of our journey, the end of our run of autumn updates. So yes, I shall get on with that for you tonight. Going to be an ENSO El Nino special. Have we saved the best for last? You'll find out in around 2 minutes time. I'll get on that for you in a second. Just to say that first video release day here on the channel was a 6 AM broadcast. I'm going to be live streaming at 6 PM this evening. We're going to live stream our 10 to 14 day and the long range as well. So if you've got any questions about this final autumn update, then please fire away in the live stream tonight and let me know what you think and ask questions, and I shall do my best to answer those. We'll be live streaming the CFS V2 and the Beijing Climate Centre tonight, so we're going to extend that through the autumn and on into winter 2023-24 ultra long range coming up on our Sunday evening live stream tonight. So I shall see you a little bit later on for that one, hopefully. Thank you so much, Richard, for the autumn updates. 2 gifts. We've had 2 gifts for autumn updates for this season. So this is gift number 1. Thank you so much for gift number 1, Richard, and also thank you so much for gift number 2. You're going to see a special gift for the autumn forecast next week, next Sunday. But thank you so much for our autumn updates, gifts number 1 and gift number 2. Richard, and thank you so much Shrine as well, Shrine Brewing, for sorting out all of the years for us, not only for this autumn update, but for all of the autumn updates that we're doing through this season. Thank you so much to Shrine, and thank you so much to Richard. Hashtag Team Gav, Shrine Brewing, and Richard Troy. And let's not forget Terry Scully as well. That is the hashtag Team Gav, and we've got a great team. Thank you so much to Team Gav. Right. Okay, let's do this then. Final autumn update. Wow. So it's going to be an ENSO El Nino special. So we're looking here in the equatorial Pacific Ocean from Peru to Indonesia. These bright colours, especially just here, is the signature of El Nino. At the moment, this is a very eastern-based El Nino. Been really warm, really hot in the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. If we have that in the middle of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, what we call region 3.4, if we have these dark red anomalies just here, then this would be reaching Super Nino territory. But because it's pushed over onto the eastern side of the equatorial Pacific Ocean at the moment, it is actually right now a relatively weak to borderline moderate El Nino event. Strengthening can be expected to occur though through the autumn, and the question is, how strong is this going to get? Well, CFS V2 is kind of in line for a lot of the forecasts. I won't go through all those, but I will try and do one last excuse me, we'll try to do one last ENSO / El Nino update for you before we begin winter updates. So we've got a couple of weeks before we do the first winter update, so I will try and squeeze in one last ENSO update so we can go through all of the model data and set the scene, from an El Nino perspective for before we begin winter updates. But anyway, CFSV2 is quite in line with a lot of model output, I think, at the moment. So we've got attentions on the side, dates and monthly periods along the bottom. So at the moment, we're somewhere between 1 and 1.5 degrees above average in region 3.4, which, as I say, the central part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. So we're around here. We get to around 1.5 degrees above average in September. That would be a moderate El Nino event. By the time we get through to like November, December, we are up to 2 degrees above average, which is a strong El Nino event. However, that does look a little bit suspicious to me, how it just, how it's like just ever slightly up, and all of a sudden it pushes up. It looks a little bit odd, that looks a little bit suspicious. I reckon in the end it will probably finish up doing something a little bit like that, which will keep it sort of moderate to maybe borderline strong, you know, but I am a bit suspicious about how far up it's going. But it was only a few weeks ago, but we're going up here, workshop a scale, and they're going for a Super Nino. So at the moment, a Super Nino looks unlikely, but so too a weak El Nino. It looks like it's going to be moderate, possibly a strong event. So let's start going through all of the autumns that are coinciding with moderate and then strong El Ninos. So, first autumn is 1951, with a moderate El Nino going on, and this one with above average heights, high pressure in Scandinavia, and below average heights, low pressure is out in the Atlantic. Quite an unsettled autumn, and a relatively warmish autumn as well, with winds often coming in from like a southeasterly type direction. Right, where we go next? 1963. Next autumn is that of 1963, coinciding with a moderate El Nino. This one more unsettled, I think, more westerly as well. Low pressure in from off the Atlantic. It's not just a typical sort of Atlantic-driven type autumn, really. Quite a forgotten autumn. I don't think there's much going on with that one. 1968 is also a moderate El Nino. Autumn, with high pressure, this time more towards Iceland and Greenland, and low pressure underneath it coming in from off the Atlantic. So this is quite a warm autumn. Has a relatively wet September for the south, drier in the north, and then it has a warm and wet October. There are two very warm Octobers at the end of 1960s, 1968, 1969, but 1969 is a very dry October, whereas 1968 is a warm and wet October. And then I think November just starts getting a little bit colder. We start getting a few cold snaps coming along in November of 68. Setting up really quite a cold winter. We've got 1986 next, coinciding with a moderate El Nino. This one has high pressure to the south and low pressure is to the north. Looks flat and westy. What you don't get from this is that it does have a very cool, actually quite cold September. The last time we had a September CT under 12 degrees in the 11s was actually back in 1986. Very early season frosts and whatnot going on in September 1986 as well. And then the rest of the autumn turns much milder, so October, November, just generally classically mild and rather Atlantic driven. The interest of that autumn is definitely within September. We've got 1994 as our next moderate El Nino autumn. This one very, very nondescript sort of analogue. Higher pressure over to the north of the country, low pressure in the Atlantic and away to the north and northeast. Has a wet September. So there's a run of wet Septembers actually in the early to middle 1990s. We have 1992, 1993, 1994 and 1995, all quite wet Septembers. And then, of course, the Septembers get much hotter and drier in the second half of the decade of the 1990s. So this is one of the middle, one of the four that is actually quite a wet September. Has a cold snap at the beginning of October, which is quite unusual, and delivers actually some early season snowfalls and some frost as well to large portions of the country at the beginning of October 1994. And then it gets much milder, and there is an exceptionally mild November. I think November 1994 is still the warmest November recorded, with a CT of about 10 something, 10.0, 10.1, although that may have been altered slightly in the latest revision of the CT from the UK bit earlier this year. But I think November 1994 still holds the record as the warmest November on record. Next one El Nino is 2002. Autumn 2002 has high pressure, excuse me, up to the north between Scandinavia and Greenland. Low pressure is underneath it. This one has a very dry September, a dry and quite warm September, wet October in 2002, and also a wet and mild November as well. And then finally for the moderate El Ninos, we've got 2009, and this one with high pressure down towards Spain and Portugal, low pressure in the North Atlantic away to our northwest. It's one of those analogues that doesn't tell you all that much about the season overall. It has a very, very, very exceptionally dry September and October combination. September to October drought going on. I think it's the driest October since 1978. Very, very unusually dry October. And then at the very end of October, the high pressure block breaks, and we go into exceptionally wet November with flooding across portions of the country. So from drought to flood in the autumn of 2009, very unusual autumn, that one. Okay, so that is it for the moderate El Nino, but what about the strong El Ninos? Let's have a look at those, shall we? So this is the first of the strong El Ninos, which is 1957. We'll start putting all this together in a moment, by the way, but this is the first strong El Nino, which is the autumn of 1957. This one with high pressure over and just out to west country, low pressure up towards Scandinavia, and winds coming in from more of a northwesterly direction with that one. It has a wet and relatively cool September. It's also a front-loaded summer, by the way. This summer that we just experienced, or we're coming to the end of, is in some ways quite reminiscent of 1957, I think, in that the warmest, most consistent part of summer was in June, in the front part of summer, and then there is a deterioration to much more unsettled weather in July and August. So in terms of that overall pattern, this summer has had some similarities to that of 1957. Anyway, the autumn of 1957 has a wet September and then turns drier through the rest of it. We've got 1965 as our next strong El Nino autumn. This one with a blocking area of high pressure to the north of the country and deep low pressure over and to the south of the country. That's a very wet autumn and quite a cold autumn as well. I think there is snow in November of 1965. Then again, of course, 60s were an abnormally cold decade. We've got the autumn of 1972 next as our next strong El Nino autumn. This one with high pressure over and to the west of the country. So that's a relatively dry, anticyclonic and forgettable autumn. We've got 1987, which I hadn't realised is a strong El Nino autumn. This one with deep low pressure in the Atlantic, and it's a very wet autumn, particularly so in October, which I think still remains one of the wettest Octobers on record, and of course does coincide with the famous, infamous storm of the 15th to the 16th of October 1987. Sir Michael Fisher's Nadir. But Sir Michael did all right out of that, so I don't think we need to worry about it too much. But it was very, very devastating storm down in the south and the southeast of the country. So that was a strong El Nino autumn in 1987. Then we've got 1991. As our next strong El Nino autumn. This with higher pressure in the Atlantic, lower pressure is to the north. So this has a very dry and warm September. And then it turned more unsettled later on in the autumn. Overall, it is a little bit of a forgettable autumn. Not much in way of excitement going on there. Right, so let's put all of the years together then, whether it's moderate or strong El Nino, all of the years from 1951 to 2009 are all included in this. So it's how all Septembers combined are looking with every year, be they moderate or strong for El Nino. Get a mid-Atlantic ridge on average going up towards Greenland and a trough of low pressure over and to the east of the country. That means we get a relatively cool and unsettled, maybe quite cool and wet signal for those Septembers overall. Remember, there are deviations to that though, very significant deviations, such as September 2009 and 2002, which are, of course, much drier and also warmer Septembers. All Octobers combined, whether it's moderate or strong El Nino, putting all of it together, has above average heights over country. Lower pressure is away to the north. That's an anticyclonic signal, warmer and drier signal for the Octobers. And then back to low pressure for the Novembers with deep low pressure in from off the Atlantic. So a very wet, unsettled signal for all of the Novembers combined with a moderate or strong El Nino. Overall, the autumn analog looks quite unsettled as well. The reason that the blue colours turn paler is because of October, which we've already established does have an anticyclonic signal. But overall, it is a signal for lower pressure in both September and especially in November. Now, let's start narrowing that down. So let's deal with moderate El Nino. So with this, we've got 1951 2009. This is how all Septembers combined are looking with a moderate El Nino. And much more an anticyclonic signal. High pressure over and to the west of the country, lower pressure further away from us. So if we get a moderate El Nino, it seems to be a drier signal for the September. It's not necessarily all that warm though. You know, this looks rather northwesterly northerly, so probably quite coolish and dryish with a moderate El Nino in September is favoured there. Again, there will be deviations to that. So we've got, for example, 994, which is quite a wet September. We've got all October's combined with a moderate El Nino. Again, anticyclonic signal, higher pressure this time over to the southwest. So again, relatively dry, but a warmer signal maybe for the Octobers with the wind direction coming up more from a southwesterly direction. There is very deep low pressure in the Atlantic, which will put that ridge under pressure, probably increasingly so with time. And then all November's combined with a moderate El Nino. Then again, we're going towards low pressure, then the high pressure breaks down, low pressure in off the Atlantic, so a much wetter, relatively mild, but much wetter signal for the Novembers with a moderate El Nino. All autumns combined with a moderate El Nino. It is a wet signal with low pressure out to us. That's primarily down to what's happening in November, though. Remember, September and October have a more anticyclonic flavour to them. If we talk about a strong El Nino September, and there's not that many of them, this is from 1957 to 1991. Remember, we're excluding Super Ninos from our autumn forecast for this year. So, for a strong El Nino September, all September's combined with strong El Nino. It's more unsettled again. Low pressure over and to the east of the country. Higher pressure goes up towards Greenland. Winds coming in from more of a northerly direction. So we're back to a cooler, wetter signal. Interestingly, with a strong El Nino September. Strong El Nino October, all October combined with strong El Nino, still anticyclonic, so whether it's moderate or strong, we still favour more anticyclonic signals in the Octobers compared to the Septembers, which is interesting. And this is something that's been recurring through our season of autumn updates as well, interestingly. And then all Novembers combined with a strong El Nino, so it looks like it turns a little bit colder, the higher pressure centre perhaps more towards the northwest, and the lower pressure is away to the east, which would deliver perhaps more of a northeasterly influence, which could be colder. But then again, that might be down to 1965 skewing things, because I think 1965 was quite a cold and wintry month actually in November. The other one maybe not, not as interesting as that. But anyway, that's how it looks for all Novembers combined with strong El Nino. And then finally all autumns combined with a strong El Nino. Looks like that. Some higher pressure just out to our west, lower pressure over to the east of the country. Every month is variable, but looks more unsettled, I think, actually, especially in September with a strong El Nino, but with a moderate El Nino, it looks wetter in November. So it swings and roundabouts. Both favour like drier weather though in October. Right, okay, the final bit of analogues, or set of analogues I want to show you is just for the super El Nino autumns. Remember, these are not going to be included within the autumn forecast because we're too far away at the moment from a Super Nino to get a Super Nino for this autumn. But I just want to include this out of interest purposes, really. There's been 3 Super Ninos in recent years, which was 1982, 83, 1997, 98, and 2015, 2016. So this is how autumn 1982 looks. This was a very unsettled autumn, of course, with low pressure in from off the Atlantic Ocean. This is how autumn 1997 looked, much more anticyclonic, but it did have a very wet November in 1997, and this is how 2015 looks in the autumn. Overall, quite a lot of high pressure, but by November, again, it was turning wetter and also turned exceptionally mild, of course, in November of 2015. Putting all of that together, this is how the years come out then. This is all September's combined with the 3 Super Nino years, anticyclonic signal, generally a warmer, drier signal for the Septembers. But remember, 2015 was cooler, actually. October also has a relatively anticyclonic signal for these 3 Super Nino Autumns. November, much wetter again. Deep low pressure in from off the Atlantic. So it looks like, you know, whether it's moderate, strong, or super, it looks as well wet November is favoured, definitely. September and October much more. And a dry October is probably favoured, actually, whether it's moderate, strong, or super. So a dry October, wet November looks like it's relatively favoured, but September is up for grabs. September much more variable by the look of it. And finally, all autumns combined with Super Nino. Remember, these 3 years will not be included in our autumn forecast. This is just for interest purposes only, and the autumns tend to have an anticyclonic flavour, but November is significantly wetter. Right, thank you so much, everybody, for watching not only this 10th and final autumn update, but the whole season of autumn updates. It's been absolutely epic. I hope you enjoyed this season of autumn updates. I think they've been great. I think, you know, they've been really informative. I hope they have. I don't suppose it's for me to judge, it's for all of you to judge. But the feedback has been pretty good, so hopefully it's been all right. Thank you so much to Richard for gift number 2. I don't know if you noticed as we went through that, but we went from gift number 1 at the start to gift number 2 at the end. Thank you so much to Richard for both of our autumn update gift. This will probably be the last time that you see both gifts. We will use one of the gifts for the final season 1 roundup that we can do on Saturday, but this will probably be the last time that you see both of the gifts together. So thank you so much, Richard, for our autumn updates gift. There will be a autumn forecast gift that you'll see next Sunday. And thank you so much to Shryan as well, not only for getting all of these years together, but for the work on all of the autumn updates, getting the years together. Thank you so much to Shryan Bruin, and also to Richard Truell. Thank you so much to Terry Scully as well. Hashtag Team Gav has done an incredible job through this season of autumn updates, and I couldn't do, I'll talk more about this in the autumn forecast, but I couldn't do like these autumn updates without the team behind me. So I'm only as good as the team that I'm working with, and the team that I work with is the best. So thank you so much to Richard, to Terry, and to Shryan. Thank you so much to all of you for watching the season of autumn updates. So I say I've got one more season 1 roundup to do for you next Saturday, and then it's the big one next Sunday. We will be releasing the GavsWeatherVids autumn forecast. So if you're waiting to see what we're predicting for the autumn, just got one more week to go, and then all will be revealed. We're going to be live streaming at 6 p.m. this evening. Going to live stream the 10 to 14 day, and we'll be live streaming the long range too. So please come back at 6 p.m. when I shall be live, and I'll be taking questions as well. So if you've got any questions about this final autumn update or any of the autumn updates, then please fire away on the stream, and I will do my best to answer those. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday morning / Sunday afternoon. Hopefully I'll see you this evening at 6 p.m. for our live. But for the 10th and final autumn 2023 update from GavsWeatherVids, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.